Hi and welcome to our live webinar broadcast from Hamburg, Germany. It's about content marketing for measurable impact, how data storytelling and performance measurement strengthen your strategy. I'm Claudia Cramer, Senior Director, Market Research Insights.
And I am Rehfeldt, Team Lead for Data Storytelling. And we are quite excited to guide you through this fascinating and highly relevant topic, roughly in the next half hour. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them into the chat at the end. We will have plenty of time for the Q&A. And I would say, let's get started and dive in. We are now at a pivotal moment in content marketing. Data is everywhere, but only a few companies truly use it effectively. To stand out from the crowd, numbers alone are not enough. You need a compelling story and the right measurement methods to ensure success.
So today we will focus on two key pillars of modern content marketing. First, data storytelling, where we show you how to transform your data into compelling, clear and inspiring content. And secondly, performance measurement, where we show you how to measure and optimize the success of your content strategy to achieve a sustainable impact. With the right strategy, you can turn your data into powerful stories that emotionally resonate with your audience, that build trust and strengthen long-term customer relationships that we're all aiming for, right, Robin?
Yet, storytelling alone is not enough. Measurability is a key to success. Only by analyzing and optimizing your content based on data can you ensure that your strategy remains effective in the long run. Our goal today is to provide you with practical methods and techniques to seamlessly integrate data storytelling and performance measurement into your content strategy. And now I would say, let's get started and explore how you can make your content even more impactful with data-driven stories that captivate and precise performance measurement that takes your marketing strategy to the next level. So now, data storytelling is no longer just a trend. It has become a crucial success factor in content marketing, and its importance will continue to grow. Current figures make that clear. 84% of content marketing marketeers expect the relevance of data storytelling to increase significantly over the next 3 years. And thank God we also ask why. So 61% of respondents say that visually appealing content significantly increases engagement rates. In an age where attention is a scarce resource, this can make all the difference. Next, 51% report that data storytelling increases conversion rates, highlighting its tangible impact on marketing performance. Also, the same share, 51%, say it enhances credibility through data, which is crucial in an era of misinformation and content saturation. Next, half of the respondents, also here 50%, also cite improved long-term brand loyalty and better audience understanding. Data alone isn't persuasive. Only when embedded in stories that build connections and evoke emotions do numbers become powerful communication tools. Finally, 42% see value in presenting complex information in an illustrative way, particularly beneficial in B2B context, where products and services often require in-depth explanation. The numbers speak for themselves. Data storytelling is not just a method for conveying information, it is a strategy for building trust, capturing attention, and achieving long-term success in content marketing. And I would say today we will show you how to leverage data storytelling to optimize your content strategy, from selecting high-quality data and crafting compelling narratives to effective visualization and, in the end, strategic distribution. We will guide you through the 5 key steps to successful data storytelling. And now, enough theory, let's get started and explore how data-driven stories can captivate and convince your audience.
Absolutely. So successful data storytelling starts with a solid foundation, high-quality data. Your target audience whether in B2B or B2C context, makes decisions based on facts and well-founded information. Trust and credibility are key. When you back up your statements with reliable data, you create a solid foundation for your stories and position yourself as a competent and trustworthy partner. Content marketing is about strategically building this trust, and that can only be achieved with data that is not only accurate, but also relevant and up to date. Why is high quality data so important in content marketing? They build credibility and trust with your audience. They set your content apart from the competition by providing exclusive and up-to-date insights. They help make complex topics more understandable and tangible for your audience. So imagine you want to tell a story about how companies can improve efficiency. Instead of making general statements, you use data from a recent market analysis or study showing that businesses implementing digital processes grow on average 25% faster. These figures provide concrete evidence for your story and make it more credible. So high quality data helps you establish yourself as a thought leader. They not only showcase your expertise, but also provide unique insights that only you can offer. This makes your content more valuable and increases the reach and impact of your content marketing campaigns. The key is to turn data into stories that are relevant and persuasive. And that brings us to the next step, crafting compelling narratives. Over to you.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Presenting data alone is not enough. So the key now is to transform abstract numbers into engaging stories that captivate and inspire your audience. So the question is, why are narratives so important in content marketing? And the solution is they kind of make complex data understandable and emotionally relatable. They evoke emotions and create personal connections with your audience. They are memorable and enhance the impact of your message. A strong narrative turns dry data in kind of a vivid story. It not only shows what the data says, but also why it matters and how it impacts your audience. And now the question is, how can you achieve this? First step, develop a clear and relevant storyline. Connect data with real-world examples. And now go beyond numbers. Illustrate the problems solved, opportunities seized. And a kind of short hint from us, which is simple, use the 2-minute rule. Can you explain your key message in 2 minutes? If not, I would say you have to simplify it and stay focused. Key question here is to ask yourself, what is the most important insight from my data? Why is this insight relevant to my audience? Who is affected by or interested in this insight? How can I craft a story that truly engages my audience? Which is a challenging one. So with compelling narratives, you turn abstract data into a tangible story that resonate with and inspire your audience. But to make these stories truly impactful, the next step, step 3, is effective visualization. So visual content is not only processed faster, but also remembered longer. This means that visual storytelling increases reach and engagement. And now here, important, especially on social media. And now also, why is this crucial in content marketing? Easy answer. Complex data becomes easier to understand and more tangible. Your audience can process and recall, and this is important, your message more quickly. Visual stories create an emotional connection and drive engagement. Also, here's some tips from our side for effective visualization. Use color strategically. A limited color palette directs attention to the most important aspects of your story. And also, next one, simplify data presentation. Opt for clear charts, infographics, and visuals that make complex insight easy to grasp. And next one here, also very important, ensure clarity. Avoid clutter and keep designs intuitive to enhance comprehension. With effective visualization, your data becomes not only more accessible, but also emotionally impactful. And now to you, Claudia.
Yes. However, even the best visualizations lose credibility if they are not accurate and transparent. That's why step 4, quality assurance, is essential. So in an era where misinformation and fake news are widespread, it is more important than ever to ensure that your content is accurate, precise, and verifiable. In content marketing, even a single inaccurate statistic or misleading representation can damage the trust of your audience. So credibility and transparency are therefore essential for successful communication. But why is quality assurance so important? Firstly, your audience expects precise and well-founded information. Only when your data is accurate can you build trust and establish yourself as a reliable source. Secondly, incorrect or misleading claims can harm your brand. Accurate and transparent data, on the other hand, strengthen your credibility and position you as a thought leader in your industry. And thirdly, it is impact and persuasiveness. Your message can only be effective and convincing if they are fact-based and easy to verify. But how to ensure quality assurance? Double-check all data. Every number and fact should be verified at least twice, ideally by different team members. Verify data sources. Ensure that your data comes from reliable and up-to-date sources. Examine the methodology and background of data sources to detect potential biases, especially when using AI as a source as well, for example. Then, transparency and disclosure. Be open about your methodology and clearly state where your data comes from and how you interpret it. This fosters trust and credibility again. And last but not least, due to the high relevance of, and be very critical with AI-generated data, data or insights generated by AI must be carefully reviewed and independently verified, as they can contain errors or reflect hidden biases. Ensuring quality is not just about avoiding mistakes. It's about reinforcing trust and authority. But even the most reliable data and well-crafted stories won't have an impact unless they reach the right audience. And that brings us to the final step, strategic distribution. So over to you, Robin.
Thanks, Claudia. So now let me elaborate on step 5, strategic distribution. So even the most compelling data story is ineffective if no one sees it. That's kind of true. That's why the final step is strategic distribution, ensuring your content reaches the right audience through the right channels. In content marketing, it's not just about telling a great story. It's about delivering it at the right time and in the right place. So what does strategic distribution involve? Understand your audience and their preferred channels. Where do they consume content? In social media? Is it the email newsletter? Is it blogs? Or industry publications? And then adapt your content to each platform and format. A LinkedIn post requires a different approach than an Instagram story or a long-form blog article. And now use an integrated strategy to maximize the reach. Combine owned, earned and paid media for greater visibility. And here also we brought some practical tips for effective distribution. In social media, break down your data story into smaller, shareable posts, infographics or short videos. And if you look at email marketing, use newsletters to deliver personalized, data-driven insights directly to your audience. And also here looking at search engine optimization and blogs, optimize for search engines by incorporating relevant keywords and structuring your content for readability. And also think about press and industry networks. Share exclusive insights with journalists and industry influencers to amplify your reach. And next one, repurpose the content. Transform your data story into multiple formats. Let it be articles, presentation, podcasts, and videos to reach different audience segments. And that hence leads us to, by strategically distributing your content, you ensure that your data stories don't just exist. They make an impact, and that's all that matters. So now we have these 5 steps: high quality data, a compelling narrative, effective visualization, rigorous quality assurance, and strategic distribution. You can create data-driven stories that inform, engage, and truly inspire. And now we brought one example, looking at Booking.com. So here, Booking.com successfully leveraged its European accommodation barometer as one central content data hub, from which all content formats were developed. At the heart of this approach was a high-quality market survey, looking at the data. This survey was conducted in multiple countries, which formed the empirical foundation of the report and enabled a data-driven content strategy that ensured consistency, relevance, and impact across all channels. So here, looking at the European accommodation barometer is built on one robust survey database that delivers, therefore, exclusive and newsworthy insights into the needs, expectation, and sentiments of Booking.com's target audience of hotel managers, and that globally. These insights were essential for shaping all subsequent content assets. The report offered in-depth data on emerging travel trends, consumer behavior, and market developments. And due to the high methodological quality of the survey, the findings were not only precise and up-to-date, but also highly credible, allowing Booking.com to create content that was both compelling and grounded in fact. And here, by strategically utilizing the European report, or the survey better said, as a content data hub, Booking.com transformed a single data source into multiple formats. Here, looking at it, we have infographics and social media posts. Complex data was turned into clear and engaging visuals that conveyed key insights concisely and in the end emotionally. Next is the webinars. The most important findings from the report were presented by experts, providing deeper context and fostering industry discussions. Next, our regional reports. Localized versions of the global report were created to cater to specific market needs and trends. And also we did some newsletters. So the report's insights were repackaged into concise, digestible emails targeted at industry professionals and travelers. And now let's take a look at the distribution. Booking.com implemented a cross-channel and audience-specific distribution strategy to maximize reach and in the end, the impact. So at social media, they used infographics and key insights which were strategically published on LinkedIn and X, engaging industry stakeholders and travelers. And they also did email marketing. Newsletters not only provided valuable insights, but also drove traffic to the full report, acting as kind of a lead magnet. And that's what all it's about. Next one, a website and landing pages. All content pieces were kind of interconnected, guiding users from the European report landing page to optimize conversion rates. And to sum it up, why is this a best practice in data storytelling? So first, we have one centralized content data hub with high quality data. Booking.com approach ensured consistent and interconnected communication grounded in a high quality market survey conducted across Europe to generate exclusive and newsworthy insights into the accommodation sector. Second, we have very efficient content production. Using the European Market Survey as a foundation enables scalable content creation without repeated data research, which is nice. Next one, we had engaging and credible storytelling. So Booking.com successfully turned complex travel data into a compelling narratives, combining factual accuracy with engaging storytelling. And then also we have maximum reach and impact. A cross-channel, audience-specific distribution strategy helped Booking.com effectively engage different stakeholders, amplifying reach and influence. And that brings us towards our conclusion, the power of data-driven storytelling. So Booking's holistic, data-driven content strategy exemplifies how businesses can leverage high-quality data to create impactful, engaging, but also scalable content by integrating data, narrative, visualization, quality assurance, and strategic distribution. Brands can ensure that the stories not only inform, but also inspire and drive action.
Wow, great example, I think, for the topic of content marketing. And as content marketing investments continue to grow, so does the pressure to justify them, both externally and internally. So today, about 10% of content marketing budgets go into measurements and analytics, with a strong upward trend of roughly 7% growth per year. Nearly 3/4 of companies already have a measurement framework in place, with the other quarter either working on one or planning to implement one. Still, measuring performance remains one of the biggest challenges. Many companies struggle to evaluate the long-term impact of content and state a lack of clear KPIs. It's also difficult to measure the impact on revenues, and they cite poor tool usage, lack of data quality, and limited resources for data analysis. But before I walk you through a few ways to overcome these hurdles, let's take a closer look at a key pitfall in performance measurement, the so-called KPI vanity metrics gap. This refers to the mismatch between goals and the metrics used to measure them. In other words, companies are setting the right goals, but measuring them the wrong way. Looking at the top goals in content marketing, brand awareness clearly comes first, which applies to both B2B and B2C companies. This is followed by strengthening brand loyalty and customer retention and supporting product launches. Other key goals include building employer branding, trust, and credibility, generating leads and achieving thought leadership, as we have talked about today as well. But when we look at the KPIs most commonly used to measure success of content marketing, we mainly see behavioral metrics. Social media analytics, website or email engagement KPIs, search rankings, conversion or click-through rates, so all behavioral measurement KPIs. However, many of these are what we call vanity metrics, numbers that look good at first glance, but don't really say much about the true impact. Things like follower counts, likes, or page views reflect traffic, but not trust, credibility, or long-term loyalty.
So now let's take a look at the kind of underlying problem here. In the digital world, almost everything can be measured, which is nice. But the problem is, many companies default to what easiest to track, not what truly really matters. So effective performance measurement has to start with your strategy. The KPIs you choose should always reflect your campaign goals. So let's take a look. If your aim is to generate new leads, you will need different metrics than if you're trying to strengthen existing customer relationships. And branding or image building efforts require different approaches than performance-driven campaigns. So this disconnect between goals and metrics becomes especially clear when it comes to branding. behavioral KPIs simply aren't enough to measure awareness, trust, or image. So the solution, at least in theory, is simple. Ask your audience. Surveys or interviews are the only way to understand what's really going on in your audience's mind. That said, these methods are still underused. Market research studies via online panels, telephone interviews, or a focus group are rarely conducted. Not even half of companies use surveys of their own users at least occasionally. So there's clearly still a lot of room to grow, so a positive message. Especially in B2B contexts, it often lacks available tools and methods or the knowledge of them. In B2C, at least standardized research solutions are often available. And target groups are easier to reach, obviously, through consumer panels. But now looking at B2B, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Target audience are usually smaller, more specific, and harder to access. That's why we want to share 2 examples how content performance can be measured systematically, even in B2B contexts. And now over to you, Claudia.
Exactly. So let's start with the first case, which focuses on targeted content brand performance tracking to measure content effectiveness and brand perception. The goal here was to strengthen customer loyalty and improve brand perception among both existing and also potential customers. The target audience was reached via newsletter and website, while white papers were used as the key content format, distributed through both channels and supported by a mix of organic and paid promotion. Success was measured through an online survey of 15 to 20 questions integrated directly into the content environment. This approach generated valuable insights about the target group, branding impact, and activation potential. And the best part? Projects like this can be implemented for under 10,000 euros because the sample is recruited through own channels and not via external partners. This is a great example of how even with limited budgets, meaningful performance data can be collected. Let's come to the second case. This is about market and competitor impact study. The goal here was to increase brand awareness and acquire new customers in a targeted way. So the audience consisted of people who had no previous contact with the brand. Again, white papers were used, this time promoted via organic and paid social media campaigns, as well as through our own Statista channels. Depending on the audience and technical feasibility, success was measured using either a test control group approach or a pre and post study via online panels or telephone interviews, depending on the target group. The questionnaire again included around 20 questions focusing on target group and market insights, a direct comparison to competitors, and key brand funnel metrics, including awareness lift, likelihood to engage, and brand strength indicators like the Net Promoter Score, for example. Cost-wise, these types of projects usually exceed 10,000 euros, mainly due to the greater effort involved in recruiting a suitable sample, often via external partners. What both examples show is this. Clear objectives are essential when planning content performance measurement. There are many options available, even for smaller budgets, and it's always worth consulting with experts early in the process.
So, data storytelling is not just a trend, it's a strategic success factor. In today's information overload, it brings clarity and relevance. So those who turn data into meaningful and emotionally engaging narratives don't just capture attention, they significantly boost the impact and credibility of their content. So, and this is especially true in complex B2B contexts, where clarity and trust are essential.
High-quality data is the foundation of trust and relevance. Without reliable, up-to-date and audience-specific information, even the best story remains superficial. Only with trustworthy data can you create content that informs with depth, convinces your audience, and positions your brand or company as a credible source, building the foundation for long-term customer relationships. Success isn't measured in likes, but in achieving your goals. Metrics like reach or clicks say very little about brand impact. What really matters is this: do the KPIs reflect the strategy objectives? If you're measuring brand perception with behavioral metrics, you're likely missing the real effect and valuable insights along with it. Effective measurement starts with strategic clarity, not with tools. It doesn't begin in the dashboard. It begins with a simple but crucial question. What do you want to achieve with your content? Only when your goals, audience, and content formats are clearly defined can you choose the right methods and KPIs that deliver genuine insights. And there's the good news. Impactful measurement doesn't require a big budget. Whether through targeted online surveys or brand lift studies, impact can be made visible even with lean solutions, as long as objectives, methods, and data sources are in sync. The result? Actionable insights that lead to better decisions.
So, thank you very much for you joining us today. For those of you attending live, we'll open the floor for questions in just a moment. So please stay with us. But before we move on a quick note, all participants will receive the webinar recording via mail, so you can revisit the session or share it with colleagues. And if any questions come afterwards, or you would like to follow up directly, feel free to reach out to us at contact@statistaplus.com. We are more than happy to help and to discuss. But in the meantime, if you're looking for more inspiration and strategic input, as the topic is quite complicated, make sure to download our free content marketing compass at statistaplus.com. And also keep an eye out for our upcoming content marketing trend study 2025, which is launching very soon.